Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Samaveda Bhaktivedanta ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi All glory Sambal devotees All glory Sambal devotees All glory Sambal devotees Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 10, third canto, chapter 6. So text 19 to 25. So from 19 there's no purports, 25 there's a purport. So I'll read text 19, then we'll come to 25, then we can read the verse. This is the verse 25. Okay. Midyam tasya vidit vidnam svadasyam ka upasasvasad tadasyam smanena yasyesva anandam patipadyate. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Gudam pumsa vidit vinam mitra lokesha arjisat payumisena yuresha Pishagra Patipradyate. The evacuating channel separately became manifest, and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs for evacuation. Thus living entities are able to pass stool and urine. Text 21. Hasyasva asya vidutva pinanam indriya pati asvasat patyam sena purusha yaya vititam prapadyate. Thereafter, when the hands of the gigantic form separately became manifested, Indra, the ruler of the heavenly planets, entered into them, and thus the living entity is able to transact business for his livelihood. Text 22. Paduvya asya vidityano lokeshva vishnu avasat gayanta swayam sena purusha yaya papadya yate. Thereafter the legs of the gigantic form separately became manifest, and a demigod named Vishnu, not the personality of Godhead, entered in with his partial movement. Thus, this helps the living entity move to his destination. Shri Radha Gopinda Ki Jai. Text 23. Buddhim Chasya Viditi Vinam Va Isho Dasya Avasat Vadomem Sena Bodayam Prapadyetyayatoa Bhavet. When the intelligence of the gigantic form became manifest, Brahma, the Lord of the Vedas, entered into it with the partial power of understanding. Thus an object of understanding is experienced by the living entities. Text 24. Hidyam chasya niribinam chandram cha tasya asavat manishyam sena yasyasya vakya prapadya yate. After that, the heart of the gigantic form separately manifested itself, and into it entered the moon demigod with partial mental activity. Thus a living entity can conduct his mental speculations. Text 25. Atmanam chasya nibidam abhimano avaset padam karmanam sena yuvaso kartavyam pratipadyate. Atmanam chasya nibidam abhimano avaset padam karmanem sena yuvano kartavyam prabhadayate. Atmanam chasya nibidam abhimano avaset padam karmana sena yuvayo kartavyam prapadayate.
Atmanam chasya nirbindam abhimanyo vishatpadam atmanam shena yatyasho kartavyam pratipadyate.
Atmanam chasya nirbindam abhimano vishatpadam
ladies.
Atmanam chasya nirgunam
Anyone else? Okay, word for word. 24, 25. Atmanam, false ego. Cha, also. Asya, or the gigantic form. Nirbhininam, being separately manifested. Abhimana, false identification. Avasat, entered. Padam, in position. Karmana, activities. Amsena, by the past, by the part. Yena, by which. Aso, the living entity. Kartavyam, objective activities. Pratipadyate, takes in. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself it entered Rudra, the controller of the false ego, with his own partial activities, by which the living entity transacts his objects of actions. Repeat responsibly. Thereafter, the materialistic ego of the gigantic form separately manifested itself and into it entered Rudra, the controller of false ego, with his own partial activities, by which the living entity transacts his objective actions. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The false ego or the materialistic identity is controlled by the demigod Rudra, an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Rudra is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord who controls the modes of ignorance within the material nature. The activities of false ego are based on the objective of body and mind. Most persons conducted by the false ego are controlled by Lord Shiva. When one reaches a finer version of ignorance, he falsely thinks himself as Supreme Lord. That egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of the illusory energy which controls the entire material world. Narayan namaskritai naram cheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayet mudirayet nasta presu bhadresu nityam bhagati sevayam bhagavati uttama sloke bhakti bhavati naistaki. This is prayer by Sanatana Goswami on reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll do the translation. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most permanent transcendental fruit of the Vedas, O you who are enriched with jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you who grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life or breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Krishna who has returned among us. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer my respectful obeisances to you, unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss, for your symbols rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are the incarnation of Krishna. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O lifter of the very fallen, please do not even ever leave me. Please become manifesting from my heart and my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. So in this section of the Bhagavatam, the creation of the universal form, we can see how everything has a personality behind it. Even in the body which is functioning, there's a personality behind it. And these personalities, we cannot perceive them with our gross senses because they live on a subtle level beyond which we cannot perceive. In other ages, if there was something which is not correct, like we hear the pastime of Lord Balaram killing Rukmini, or Rukmi killing Rukmi, how Rukmi did a chess battle, a chess game with Balaram because he knew that King of Kalinga challenged him like that to get Rukmi to challenge a chess match with Balaram. And Balaram was winning all the time, but Rukmi was not accepting it. At some point, the Akashvani came, the voice came in the sky, and saying that by all reasons, Lord Balaram has won the game. So this is in previous yugas where the demigods used to speak from the sky, the Akashvani used to come. But in Kali Yuga, that doesn't happen. In Kali Yuga, the holy name is the only way, which is Krishna direct connection with Krishna through the holy name and to the saints. In the translation, it explains how these different demigods, Indra. So we can see these different demigods. They're jivas like us, but they just have a higher. They got empowerment to do different functions in the material universe, to assist Krishna in the creation. So it's not like the example is given when an ant sees a human, the ant may think a human is a giant. But when demigods see us, they see we are like ants. So they just have a big, more mystic powers, ability to. So it's not like they, although they're controlling these functions, but they're still in their realms. They have the high enjoyments where the opulence is much more than the earthly realm. So but in the mature world, everything is governed by the three modes of nature. So even the demigods are affected by the three modes. Generally, in the higher planets, the mode of goodness is prominent. They say in the planet of the sages, mode of goodness is prominent, but in heavenly planets, passion can be come in. Passion is like, they are like Kshatriyas and Vaishyas who live in the heavenly planets. But above the heavenly planets, the planets of the sages, mode of goodness is more prominent. So even in the mode of goodness, the defect of the mode of goodness is that it makes you peaceful to some extent. Like philosophers, scientists, they have their own philosophy, but they somewhat in the mode of goodness. Passion clouds everyone up. If someone goes into passion, he cannot see things properly. He mistakes good thing for a bad thing. Example is mode of passion. They see irreligion as religion and religion as irreligion. A mode of ignorance is where someone's covered over completely. He's inert. He cannot. There is no happiness in the beginning or the end. In a mode of passion, there's a glimpse of happiness. In a mode of goodness, there's austerity in the beginning, but there is full happiness at the end. So, so Prabhupada comments in the Bhagavad Gita purport to chapter 13 that it's only by the mercy of the spiritual master that one can come out of the mode of passion and ignorance. And then in this way come to goodness and come to transcendence. So we can see how even Indra, when they were going to do the Govardhan Puja, the cowherd boys were going to, the cowherd in Vrindavan, they were going to do the worship of Indra. Krishna stopped them and he preached the Maya Vamsa philosophy, saying that we don't need to please the demigods, just doing our good works will, everyone will be satisfied. So, but we can see from this Indra became very angry, and he tried to kill Krishna's associates, the cowherd boys and residents and the cows. But Krishna, just to show him his position, he lifted up Govardhan Hill with his little finger for 7 days and nights. So just from this pastime we can see how Krishna's position is much on a higher platform than the demigods. So the advantage of practicing the mode of goodness is that if you want someone is practicing mode of goodness, if he goes into a mode of passion, then his vision will be clear. An example is Arjun. So Arjun was in the mode of goodness when he heard the Bhagavad Gita. When he was fighting a battle of Kshetra, he was in the mode of passion. So this is why it's important to have good sadhana. Sadhana keeps you in mode of goodness. So even when you're doing passionate activities, you don't get affected, your vision is clear. And then so in his purport, it talks about Lord Shiva. So Rudra is the incarnation of Lord Shiva. So there are some examples. The difference between in the pastime of the demigods and demons, when they were churning the ocean of nectar to get nectar out of the ocean of milk. So that the Lord Shiva who drank the ocean of poison, he was actually Shada Shiva. He wasn't Jiva Tattva. He was actually Lord Vishnu himself. But so this this is the smallest universe. This is four-headed Brahma. There's many other universes with Brahmas which have million heads, 10,000 heads. So many Brahmas are there. So this is the smallest, but so there's many Rudra incarnations of Lord Shiva who help in administration of the creation. There's a interesting pastime of Lord Shiva which happened in Ujjain. So this is in the fourth canto of Bhagavatam. When Daksha did not respect Sati, and so Sati, she burnt her body in the fire, isn't it? She created a fire and she burnt herself like that. So at that time, Lord Shiva was dancing with that body of Sati, and he was doing the dance of destruction. So he's going to destroy the creation. He was so angry. So Lord Vishnu was thinking, he was saying, it's not time for the destruction of the universe. What is Lord Shiva doing? So he sent his Sudarshan Chakra. And that Sudarshan Chakra cut Sati's body in 51 places. And each of those bones fell in different places, in different holy places. So one of them fell in Ujjain. So there's a deity of Durga in Ujjain where that bone fell. So then Lord Shiva came to his senses. And Lord Shiva is not he's in between the category of demigod and Vishnu. So he has his own tattva. There's in the Navavarja Mahima, there's a pastime to show this point, how it says from Lord Shiva, even Nrsingadeva appears. So there's a pastime in Navavarja Mahima, how there was a Brahmana, he went into the forest, and there was a Shivite. So they knew who the Brahmana was, they knew the importance of Brahmanas, how they have purity behind them. So he was like a tribal hunter or something. He had a shivling. So he told this Brahmana, who was a Vaishnava, he worshipped Vishnu, he told him, you have to worship my deity. If you don't worship my deity, I'm going to cut off your head. So the Brahmana was thinking, what to do in this situation. So, to the Shivaling, he started reciting Nrsingadev mantras. And with this tribal leader, he was affected by ignorance, so he couldn't understand what the Brahmana was doing. So then he was going to cut his head off. At that time, from the Shivaling, Lord Nrsingadev came out. And they killed that tribal leader. So that shows that Lord Shiva is his own category. And so one example is given in 11th canto about Lord Shiva is that he has got a thankless task of reforming the conditioned souls to their pure status of serving Krishna. So there's a famous pastime given in the Krishna book. Who was that demon who wanted to touch anyone's head? Vritasura, right? Vrita. Vikasura. Vikasura, yeah. So he was doing this austerity of just fasting, and then if Lord Shiva didn't come, he would cut his head off. At that point, when he's going to cut his head off after bathing, Lord Shiva appeared to him and said, "Why do you want to do this? Um, um, uh, what benediction do you want?" So he said, "I want to benediction that anyone's head I touch, it'll break into 100 pieces." So Lord Shiva was obliged, he gave him a benediction. So Vikrasura, he wanted to go after Parvati. So he started chasing Lord Shiva to touch his head. And Lord Shiva, he started running. So Vikrasura was behind him. At some point, Lord Shiva entered the planet of Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu came out as a brahmachari, he came out. And he started speaking to Vikrasura that get friendly with him. He said, "I know your ancestors, you're from this dynasty. The Lord Shiva, he's a bit crazy. He doesn't give blessings properly. I know his blessings have no potency." And by Lord Vishnu's internal potency, Vikasura got bewildered. And the Lord Vishnu said, "Touch your own head and see if his benediction works." And he touched his head and his head cracked. So by Lord Shiva's mercy, even that Vikasura got liberated, because he went to the planet of Lord Vishnu. So we can see how, and then yeah. So in the purport, he explains about this. The egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last snare of illusion energy which controls the entire material world. So, there are a few pastimes to show this point, how in the material world, the living entity, he wants to try and be Krishna. So the famous example is Pundraka, right? Now in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, it says, in the purpose, it's commented, that Pundraka worshipped Lord Shiva to get a blessing to have the extra 2 arms. So he was like Lord Vishnu. So he was claiming to be Lord Vishnu. And he wrote a letter to Krishna saying that, "Give up your symbols of Vasudeva and give them to me, otherwise I will kill you." So Krishna was laughing with the Yadu dynasty, he was laughing. And then Krishna sent a message back to them with a messenger that, "When I give you my symbol, your head will cut off and the Vasu will eat your head. Dog will feast on your head." So Pundraka became pale. In Gopal Shambhu, he became very pale. He became very worried. And then there was a king of Kashi he was supporting King Pundraka also. So Krishna came there, and King Pundraka came out with king of Kashi. And Krishna was laughing when he saw Pundraka, he had looking like him. And then in the king of Kashi, the citizens didn't understand who Krishna actually was. So it just shows that how the Maya is very strong. Even Krishna appeared, people couldn't understand him fully. So king of Kashi said, "I'll bring the head of Krishna I'll kill Krishna and bring his head to our kingdom, to our city." So Krishna, he cut the king of Kashi's head and he threw it to Kashi. And the people were thinking Is this the head of Krishna or our king's head? So initially they were thinking it was Krishna's head, but then they realized, no, he's the king of Kashi's head. So like this, we can see how the false ego, the egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is very strong. And in modern times, the examples are like in building of the Juhu temple, there was this Mr. Naya, same thing happened. He didn't want to give the temple to Prabhupada. He was trying to steal money off the devotees, take money off, and which he tried to do with many other people. He succeeded. Prabhupada he couldn't succeed. But Prabhupada had the deities Radha Ras Bihari installed there. And at the last point, this Mr. Naya, he brought his guru, so-called guru, he brought him in. And Prabhupada went with Guru Das and Shama Sundar and Brahmananda like that. And Prabhupada told Brahmananda, you go, now he's sleeping, bring him now. His guru is sleeping, you bring him to me now. So Prabhupada tried to deal with him nicely that now you should give the property to us. Everything settled. But Mr. Naya said, I'm going to break your deity. So that night he had a heart attack and he died. And Prabhupada commented, he said, Lord Nrsimhadev took him away. And there was a third example in Poland. I think Bhaktivedanta Sagar Maharaj gave this example. How this one so-called leader in Poland, he went to the devotees in the temple in Poland and he threatened them that if you don't leave this temple by tomorrow, I'm going to burn your temple. But that person, he went to a dentist to get his tooth done. Some tooth he had to get done. And in the dental practice, he died. So these are the certain certain examples to show how the same thing prevails even when Krishna came 5,000 years back. So even now the same thing is prevailing. Now even in modern day leaders, you see how they're not into supporting Krishna's plan, like cow protection, protecting brahmanas, devotees, children, women, all people. They're not into protecting these. They want to exploit people. So we can see with this how the karma is coming in a different way in the world now. So Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, he said, modern society is a condemned society. It has no respect for spiritual education, no respect for brahmanas, children, women, all people, and they consider dog the best friend. So you can see how he's condemned. They have no respect for cows. So we can see how long can he go on for? And now, in the Papa, he said that the egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul is the last nail of the illusion energy which controls the entire material world. We can see how modern day leaders, they're interfering with laws of nature now. They're inventing these E4 gadgets, E5, and this is interfering with the nature's laws. And now they're also interfering with the ocean also. Like in the ocean, I think there's enough plastic bags to cover half the city of England or something. It's such a big amount they put in the ocean. So we can see how the difference between the spiritual leadership and the leaders who are controlled by the modes of nature. And so just like when Krishna appeared, when Lord Chaitanya appeared, things were very bad. He says when after the war happens, when if things rectify, then things are okay. But even after the war, if things get very bad, then Krishna personally appears. Generally, things rectify after the war. Things get better, over time. But if things don't rectify, even after the war, and things get even worse, at that point, Krishna personally appears. And he sends one of his representatives to rectify things. Like in the case of Srila Prabhupada, when he appeared, this is a true story showing how one in Russia, or there was one old person, he was reading the Prabhupada biography, or he read one of Prabhupada's books, and he was telling his telling one of his sons that now I understand why Prabhupada did certain things in a certain way. And this person was under a lot of pressure that he had to press the buttons for the atomic bomb to take off or something. But at that time when Prabhupada touched America, everything changed. Russia pulled their ships back, America pulled their ships back. So it seems from that example how only when devotees intervene in the activities of people in general, and they try and get them to take to Krishna consciousness, then the destiny changes. Otherwise, the karma takes place of the egoistic conviction of the conditioned soul. It takes over. So, association of the right people is important in spiritual life. So unfortunately, in the material world, people want to lord it over. So this is why, as devotees, we are very, very careful in who we associate with to make spiritual advancement. And there's an example given of, there was this washerman in Mathura, and Bhaktivedanta Thakur comments in the Chaitanya Bhagavad that he did millions of lives of pious activity to gain that qualification of seeing Krishna. But unfortunately, he was associated with Kamsa. So when Krishna Balaram came to Mathura and asked him for some cloth, instead of giving the cloth, he was criticizing Krishna Balaram, saying, you can't take the king's property. If you take the king's property, then you'll be killed. So Krishna with his hand just cut his head off. And then they took the clothes, and the other people, they ran off. So that shows that even one could be on that level of doing a lot of piety from previous lives. But if one associates with wrong people, then one can be misguided. So association of the devotees is very important. Any comments or questions? Mic is there.
Thank you for the class. My question is about Lord Shiva. Do we know that he's Lord Vishnu, Sadashiva in the spiritual world? And I was wondering about how does the Supreme Lord get affected by his own energy, or how does he go through transformation if he's
Well, from my understanding, there's example is given just like a mechanic when he fixing a car, right? He puts on certain clothing, isn't it? So it doesn't get dirty, right? So when Lord Vishnu has to do a dirty job, he takes the form of Lord Shiva. Otherwise, if he appeared as Lord Vishnu, then it wouldn't be the material world. It would become the spiritual world. In order to fulfill a certain purpose, Lord Vishnu takes the form of Lord Shiva. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Prayojan Prabhu.
It's a verse that perfectly matches this, actually. It's from the Bhagavad Gita. And it says, the spirit soul bewildered by the influence of the false ego thinks himself the doer, and in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So it takes into account all the modes of material nature, and which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge. This person takes false ego and takes the credit for everything. Independently, that is the symptoms of omniscience. He does not know, like you were saying, what's right, what's wrong. The subtle body of the creation is under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, the bodily mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna. But the ignorant man, he forgets the Supreme, who's known as Rishikesh, or the master of the senses. And due to his long misuse of the senses and sense gratification, he gets bewildered by the false ego and makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. And so we can see that if we don't get to grips with our own sense gratification, we're going to lose our relationship with Krishna. If we don't follow regulative principles, we'll forget and we'll stay in this world.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.